Hi, I'm Heather and I have some autumn themed cards to share with you today made by Blended Oxide Inks. I'm working with trios of oxide inks, 3 different sets, and I'm working on hot press watercolor paper. That's because I'm going to add watermarks later. This first trio of colors is very harmonious. Trio yellow blends into red and you get some oranges, red blends into brown and you get just some more reddy browns, and the browns blend into yellow and you soften the brown to a more mustardy color. So very, like I said, very harmonious blends there, nothing really contrasting. You'll see as I blend the oxide inks that I blend one color, I blend the other color beside it and over it, and then I return to the original color. So there's very much a lot of back and forth with the blending, and that's what gets your blends to be really smooth eventually. They don't look like that straight away, but the more back and forth blending you do, the more seamless it will become. And oxide inks are pretty easy to blend. They do result in really lovely, smooth color transition. Oxide inks are part dye ink and part pigment, so they do stay a little wet and sticky on the surface. They don't soak straight into the paper, and that's why I'm using a piece of scratch paper there to just hold on to the edge of my panel so that I don't get fingerprints from just the oil in my skin. My next trio is also pretty harmonious. I've got a green and a yellow and an orange. And of course, when you blend a green with a yellow, you just get a more yellowy green. And even blending an orange with a green, you'll get kind of a more browny green color. But yeah, nothing, again, not big contrasts in this combination. I think I'm being guided by what I'm seeing outside at the moment. None of my trees are sporting really bold colors yet. They're beginning to change, but nothing too dramatic. As you blend too, that you can build up depth of color just by blending for longer, like adding more and more color. I blended until I could see very little of the white or no white coming through, but you really can layer and add more blends and get bolder color like that, aside from the fact that you can choose bolder colors in the first place. My last trio actually does involve a contrasting pair of colors. The red and the green are contrasting, so when they get blended with each other, it gives me a brown. And obviously a brown is appropriate for autumn leaves as well. So this was a nice combo of 3 as well, but it was just a little bit bolder. You can see when I bring the fired brick in and blend it over the top of the crushed olive, I get a brown color. So that's, yeah, that works for my autumn themed blended panels. I'm going to be doing die cutting with these. So I'm going to be able to position the dyes over the areas where the blends go from one color to another, just like autumn leaves. So I really, really like this medium for creating autumn leaves. Not sure if I like it as much as Brusho for autumn leaves. That might be my ultimate fave, but oxide inks do work beautifully. You can see 4 panels there. One of them doesn't make the final cut for today's projects, so I didn't really include that in the video, but it was a nice color combo, that one on bottom left, so I will use that in a project another day. I started by just splattering some water on my panels, and then I waited a few minutes. I cut the waiting out of the video. Well, waited a minute maybe, and then picked up the water with a paper towel, and you can see the watermarks that are left. And I did that a few times just to get a bunch of watermarks on my panels with a little brush and a big brush, so I would have fine splatter as well as bigger splots. Then I decided to have some splatter of coloured ink as well, so I smushed some fired brick oxide ink on my glass mat and just flicked that onto the panels. Very fine, noticeable, but yeah, a little bit subtle. So then I got a bigger brush and flicked on some wild honey oxide inks to just finish off my panels. I dried them really thoroughly before I moved on to any die cutting. I'm die cutting the leaves from the new fall foliage die set from Penny Black and just running them through my Gemini Junior. The set has a maple leaf and an oak leaf, and you can tell that I really didn't plan this project. I just made it up as I went along, because until I made that first cut with the die set, I didn't realize that it was 2 leaves and 2 sets of veins for those leaves. I thought it was 4 leaves, so obviously not really paying close attention, but it all worked out. I used the leaves and I cut multiple leaves with that first set, and also pulled out the leaves part of my pumpkin and leaves die set, also from Penny Black, and cut out a lot of those from my panels. So I was using 3 panels and I cut out a lot of little leaves and maple leaves, a few others that didn't get used in the end, but mainly the maples and then the little leaves from the pumpkin and leaves set. All the die sets and all the ink colors will be listed in the description box below and on my blog, and also they do flash up on the screen during the video, so you can pause if you want to note that down. I played around a little bit with backgrounds before I settled on one, trying craft paper and trying some creamy colored paper. Some was a cheap watercolor paper and the other was the textured white luxe cardstock that I get from Foiled Fox. And in the end, I decided that I preferred the brighter background of the creamy color paper than the craft. Now, off camera, I glued those maple leaves on, and I'm just showing you with one that for each leaf, I added a little bit of extra blending on the edges, just to help define those edges when they're overlapped in this swag of hanging leaves. And I just glued them on one edge so that I could overlap them, and they still stick up a little bit on the panel, so there's a little bit of dimension to that. I took a photo of my arrangement just so I could have it there when I was putting it back together. So these are little bits that I'm gluing on now. They are the veins that fit exactly over the leaves, the die cut leaves, but I'm using them as little tweaks instead. So I'm not using them as veins for each leaf, although you can do that and it's really pretty. I decided to use them as little tweaks. I got some twine and I doubled it over and then doubled it over again and tied a knot in it just to put up there at the top of my swag of leaves. Put some strong glue on and got my reverse tweezers to just hold that until the glue was set. Also off camera, I glued some of the small leaves in a circle. I just traced a circle with a pencil and just glued one layer of small leaves, different kinds, around that circle. And now I'm using the rest of the little die cut leaves to fill it out. I'm doing 2 things really. I'm filling it out so the wreath is just more luxurious, but I'm also trying to get balance with all the little elements. I keep trying to fit that maple leaf in, but it never actually makes it. I guess I didn't follow my own rule, which is to always place the larger leaves first. I did that, but that little maple leaf that I keep trying to fit back into the wreath, if it wasn't in the first layer, it wasn't going to make it later. Because now I'm balancing things out just by using a lot of little leaves that help finish off the wreath and just make it fuller and more pleasing and circular. I also went back to my favorite Thanksgiving sentiment, which is from the Golden Delight set from Penny Black, stamped it on some craft with VersaFine sepia ink, and created 2 sentiments, and then gave my little bits of twine a haircut. I had twine on that swag, and I had also poked in little bits of twine on my wreath as well, and I just needed to trim those off now that all the glue has set, and work out where I'm going to position my little sentiments. I chose to finish the cards, put them on a really dark craft cardstock base. I don't think this is available anymore, but it just worked beautifully for these cards and I want to use it up. But you could use any kind of craft cardstock or an appropriate brown color that you have on hand. Thanks for joining me today. I'll be back with more autumn cards, I'm sure. And for more details, check out my blog or the description box below. See you again.